Welcome back, everybody, to another video here at the Chris, and today we're going to be going over the state of blue going into Power Absorb. We are kind of heading into the regional season now for set 20 in Dragon Ball. Very exciting time, but with blue being I would say probably the most dominant color over the past few formats, we did just look at red. Red is still very powerful, but how did blue favor in transitioning into this new format? So that's what we're going to go over today. As always, make sure you guys like and subscribe. That is always important. Helps support the channel and just lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content. So the first thing we need to talk about is the proverbial elephant in the room. That was the ban of the Crimson Warrior leader. This leader, I don't want to say gave blue an unfair advantage, because that's not true. But this leader, because this leader's been out for months, right? This came out in Realm of the Gods. So this was out for almost an entire year before people really started diving into it and playing it. But this leader gave you even a higher level of Icarus type of value. And that was very difficult for aggro matchups to get around, which is why we saw decks like Sin and Gogeta sort of take a back seat to Crimson. It just wasn't, you weren't able to deal with Crimson the same way that you can deal with other decks. So it's kind of good that the leader's gone. I felt like this leader, if this leader was going to stick around, we were going to see a big change in how a lot of decks operate. A lot of decks would not be viable, especially blue decks. A lot of blue decks would just not be able to be played if Crimson was around, just because it's just better value. There's no reason to play it, right? However, now that it's gone, the level field, it's kind of been, averaged out now, and I think we're going to see a lot of other type of blue decks being played that are not Crimson, obviously, because Crimson obviously can't be played anymore. So, two decks that did survive that will definitely be played in some capacity going into at least the next format, is Gamma and Beerus. Both of these have been incredibly powerful. Both of these were top 4 finishers at the at Worlds. Gamma obviously finishing second. Beerus, I think, was 3rd or 4th, I believe. Actually, I think it was 4th. Now, Gamma, I think, is the best deck going into this next this next format. I do believe Gamma is the best deck. The deck definitely has some bad matchups, but I think if you go overall in in a actual like 250 something person event, I think we're going to see more Gamma doing well than we will see some other decks doing well. Gamma has a pretty good matchup into red. You have 2 types of floodgates with Android 14. Actually, 3 types of floodgates with Android 14, the Android 17 promo, as well as the Sun Gohan that stops your opponent from attacking with bigger battle cards, essentially making a lot of your matchups very, very easy. I think with how the champion and the TP promos are coming out, I think Gamma is definitely going to be the gap from first and second is not going to be as far as I thought it was going to be, but I think Gamma is still going to be able to be probably the best blue deck. At least the best blue deck, if not probably the best deck in the next format. But again, people don't play it if the the high caliber players aren't playing Gamma and they're on something else. It's maybe it's not because the deck's bad. They might just want to pivot over to something else, and that could actually change the format obviously as well. And a lot of the tools that we got in this last set for Power Absorb do work in Gamma because this is a blue-green deck, so just keep that in mind. And then we have Beerus. So the idea with Beerus was that it did definitely take a hit on the stabilizing aspect, because you no longer have 4 blue unisons to kind of rely on. You have 1 blue unison and you have to play something else, and that could be bad, especially with a lot of aggro that's going to be in this next format. Beerus is still something that people do have to be careful of, especially if you are playing a type of controlled mid-rangey type of deck. If you let Beerus get to a certain point, once they tap that first 6 for that first Vegeta, if you don't have a way of getting rid of it, which most decks don't have a way of getting rid of it, the game's going to be over much sooner than you would like to. In a way that you have no interacting ability with it. And the Super Saiyan Kaioken Secret, which is still probably the secret you're going to play for this deck, with everybody citing the Cunning cards to deal with Android 21 and some other decks, Kaioken definitely loses a lot of value, because once you once you cunning once, your opponent can't resolve their auto. They're just not able to restand any of the energy, so it's still a 2-drop attacker that they can swing with 3 times, but they're not getting all the restand, which is the whole point of playing this. If you're gonna play a 2-drop, if you're gonna play a Secret for 2 energy, you're probably gonna just play, you're probably just gonna play Beast Gohan, right? That just makes more sense. So this is still a deck we're going to see, but probably just not as much. But we'll see. Maybe someone finds who knows, maybe they really rely on Floodgates. That also could be a possibility, where they're just relying on just playing Floodgates and just trying to survive that way. So we'll see what ends up happening with Beerus. Now, these 3 decks, 2 of these decks did come out in this current set. One, the Trunks, has been out for quite some time, actually, right before Nats. But these are 3 decks that I think have potential to do very, very well in this next format. So the first one we're going to talk about is going to be Android 21. Now, this is a deck I'm very critical on. I think this deck is, as good as this deck is, I think this particular Android 21 is not going to be the one that's going to end up doing incredibly well over the long period of time with this, this deck being out. I think the starter deck, I even think the old field spell leader is probably still better than this leader. However, people think this deck is really good. There's people who also agree with me where they think this deck is just kind of mid. I think it's going to fall somewhere in between. I think people will end up playing this deck a lot. But unfortunately, with all of the aggro that is in this next format, I don't think this deck is going to be able to at least withstand a lot of that. It's going to be really matchup dependent. And if they play against a bunch of blue players, if they play mirror matches, obviously it's much easier to kind of move up the ladder that way, because you're not playing against your worst matchup, which is going to be red and black aggro. Both of those demolish this deck since you don't have access to extra cards early and you're taking so many swings. It ends up being very difficult to get through. But if you're able to do that, this deck has a lot of power. We have full power counter here, which is an incredibly good floodgate. It's probably not the best to use in most cases, but you do have the effect of being able to use it. You have the Android 21 in the Name of Hunger, which allows you to ramp, get rid of battle card on board, you get a blocker, as well as all of the other small tools that you do have to your, you do have access to, being the Secret Rare, being the Android 18 SPR Arrival card, which is incredibly good. I think if you don't have that card, you should probably end up buying that card. I probably actually should have included that card in this video, but that is a card. I think it's called Measureless Strength. That is a card that you should be buying if you're wanting to play blue, green, anything. Hopefully you had it already, but that card's gonna be really, really, really good, and might actually even be expensive depending on how well one of the blue-green decks end up doing. The next one is Android 18, which is, if you guys watched my tier list video for set 20, I said this was probably the best deck coming out of the format. I still believe it's probably right there, next to maybe 1 or 2 other decks. But this deck is just a low-to-the-ground blue deck that just turns cards sideways, right? Has a very good Awaken turn with, or a Z Awaken turn where you're able to play out one of these XL Dance cards. Both of these cards are very impactful in their own right, but this deck just has tons of pushing power, right? I think people are going to hopefully catch on to Android 18 at some point, and this deck's going to end up doing well. This deck also can play blue-green as well if you decide to go that route. You also can play blue-red. I've seen a blue-red variation of this deck, so just a good strong blue deck that also happens to be Android, which is probably one of the more powerful full traits that we have in the game next to obviously Saiyans. And then we have Super Saiyan 2 Trunks. Now, the time this video comes out, there was like a small webcam tournament over the weekend that Eggman, I think, was putting on. A gentleman from my locals, Maverick, he actually, and shout out to him, I don't know if he watches my videos or not, but he actually piloted this deck to a top 8 finish. This is a deck that I actually left it off of my list for top tier lists. Honestly, I kind of forgot about the leader, I'll be honest with you, as a lot of people I think did. But this is a very close, like Crimson Adjace type of deck, right? You have tons of just defensive combo step value while being able to restand an energy, and you're playing out very powerful small battle cards like this Piccolo. You have Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, Beast Gohan, things like that, right? This deck also has something very interesting where you do have removal that also draws you a card, right? So you can tap 2, draw a card, bottom deck a card on your opponent's board, and Also, if you have the 5-drop Vegito in play, this card comes with a 25k double strike, right? That's very powerful, right? This deck can't take crit swings. That's also very, very good. It's just a very good deck, right? I think people will probably catch on, possibly play Trunks as well. I don't think the blue matchup is very favored for Trunks. It depends, right? It's probably, I've watched a few different matchups, both locally and just, over webcam, and I think this leader has the ability to be very aggro, but it's definitely an uphill battle for the Trunks when it comes to other blue decks. But everything else, I think this deck does definitely play very well into. Has tons of defense, very difficult to kill, and that's why this deck is, considered, I would say, a considerable favorite for people who are going to be playing blue. Now, before we get to the end of the video here, 2 cards to be on the lookout for that are coming out or that have come out already, depending on where you are. We have the Son Goku and Oob promo, and then we have the Super Saiyan 2 Trunks Champ promo. Now, Goku and Oob, this is a promo you can get at your local game stores if they have the promos. And this is a 1-drop, play it on past turn 3. It bottom decks a 5-drop, and then it draws a searches top 5 for an Earthling or a World Tournament. Now, why this is important is that this card is going to be played probably in some decks, but really next set, or maybe the set afterwards, whenever we get this Oob leader that was kind of leaked online or leaked by some sort of product detail company that was showing off stuff for the next set. But this also can work in current blue decks. You can play it. You can search out things like this Trunks. You can search out maybe super combos or other things. And who knows what other type of tools we're going to get for blue. This is definitely a card to pick up because this card will probably be very, very playable in the future, depending on how good this the next blue set is going to be. But then we have Super Saiyan 2 Emotional Blow. This card is very good. So if you have an 8-drop battle card in play or a battle card that has 30k power or more, you can play it from your hand for 1. And when it swings, it gets rid of a card ignoring barrier, but also negates indestructible, which is very, very crazy. This card allows you for 2 things. One, the next Goku Black deck we're getting is going to be an expert deck. They've already been showing off a bunch of the cards. This card being able to get rid of indestructible cards is very important, because indestructible cards have just been something that's been very difficult for people to remove anyways in the game unless you reduce its power to 0. However, with this card, you can just bottom deck them. Also, this card just removes any battle card ignoring barrier and places it at the bottom of its owner's deck. So that is a very powerful effect there. This card is also a 20k crit, and if this card is revealed from your life, you can add it to your hand, or you can play it for free, right? Which is the crazy part. So if you take a crit damage, or actually it just says whenever you add it. Yeah, so if you reveal it from your hand, you can just play it instead of actually doing that. And it's not once per turn, so I don't know how that's actually going to work. So if you take a damage from this, you can just reveal it and play it down, and that's crazy. Now you have a 20k crit on board that next, when you swing it the next time, it's just going to get rid of something. So this is going to be a very, very, very good card. I don't know how expensive it's going to be. Probably, when they start getting shipped, this is going to be a pretty expensive card, but who knows? I would get it before it goes up just so people have it, because this could be a very good staple for blue going into the future. Now, if you guys want to check out any content from the from set 20, I do have a deck video up here for Android 21 and Android 18. You should see them at the end of the video in the outro, but also they are down in the description below. So you guys want to check those videos out, you guys can. Just so you guys get a little bit more information on the Android 18 and the Android 21 leaders that did come out. We'll see if we can get a Trunks deck profile on the channel as well, so I'll see if I can do anything about that. So thank you guys again for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys if you guys did. Support, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. That's the best way to support the channel. And thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.